ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पदे गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नितिनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. We are discussing from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 3. We are on chapter 3rd. So far we have discussed Vidurji after being insulted by Duryodhan. He leaves the palace, puts the bow at the door and goes to all the pilgrimage place, considering it as the mercy of the Lord. And while he is moving on and going to all the holy places, he meets with. First, he goes to Prabhas Kshetra. There he hears the news of the destruction of the Yadu dynasty and the news of the war, Kurukshetra war. And then he meets on the bank of Yamuna with Uddhav. There, Vidurji asks so many things about the dynasty of Krishna and the dynasty of Pandavas. So, Uddhavji, in response to that, he first expresses his lamentation that, oh, it is so unfortunate that I was with Krishna, but I could not understand. And those are also very unfortunate. Yadavo nitaramapi ye sambasanto na vidur harim meena ivodipam durbhago batalokoyam. This world is so very unfortunate because they could not understand that Krishna is Supreme Lord. And more unfortunate are the Yadus. And he says, I am also unfortunate. I was with Krishna, but still I could not understand him. And we saw that how Yadus, Chakravarti Thakur writes that they could not understand that he is the same Bhagwan. They could understand that he is Paramatma, but they could not appreciate that he is the Bhagwan, same Bhagwan. So then he starts describing the birth and all the pastimes which happened in Vrindavan. And then we discussed till verse number 21 of the 3rd chapter, Lord's pastimes out of Vrindavan. So in the 21st chapter, we discussed the Lord enjoyed his pastimes both in this world and in the other worlds, specifically in the association of Yadu dynasty. At leisure hours offered by night, he enjoyed the friendship of conjugal love with women. So I think we have to start from 21st? Okay, 21st we'll recite. Imam lokam amum chaiva Ramayan sutaram yadun Reme shanadaya datta Shanastri shanasauridaha.
The Lord enjoyed the Lord enjoyed his pastimes both in this world and in other worlds, higher planets, specifically in the association of the Yadu dynasty. At leisure hours offered by night, he enjoyed the friendship of conjugal love.
So 20th verse, Uddhavji says how Lord, he appears in this world, in this transcendental body, and he attracts everyone by his words, Vacha Piyushakalpaya, by his flawless character, Charitrena Anavidyena, and his beautiful smiling face, Snigdha Smita Avalokena, by his glances, by his smiles. And that's how he spent his days and night. He would be with all the wives. So Krishna, although he's enjoying with his wives, but he's not entangled because he was with his spiritual potencies. He was not enjoying like the ordinary material person in this world. So they are not Maya Shakti. All the queens of Krishna, they are the expansions of Chit Shakti. They are, there is Lakshmi Gana, Gopi Gana, and Mahishi Gana. These are the three expansions of the Chit Shakti of the Lord. So all the gopis, expansions of Radharani. Gopi Gan, then Lakshmi Gan and Mahishi Gan. So all the Mahishis means the queens of Krishna, they are the expansions of Srimati Radharani. They are the expansions of Chit Shakti. And although Krishna was enjoying with these ladies, but he was actually not attached in a material way. He was just reciprocating with the love which they were showing to Krishna. So in the first canto, there is one beautiful verse when Krishna enters Dwarka and he enters the palaces of the queens. There also one verse came which describes how Krishna was not affected by the beautiful features of these wives. Anyone remembers that verse or translation also? What it was uh, saying there. There is Uddama Bhava. So although all the queens, they were expressing their attachment to Krishna by smiling and by their loving glances, shy glances, but still he was not affected by it. There was no role of Cupid there. Uddama Bhava Pishunamalavalguhasa Vridavalokanihato Madano Piyasam Sahmuya Chapamajahat Pramadottamasta Yasya Indriyai Vimatitum Kuhakaina Sheku. So although Uddama Bhav, they were expressing all their beauty, Valguhasa by their gentle smiles, Vridavaloka by their shy glances, Vridavaloka Nihato Madanopi. So seeing this, even Cupid gets bewildered that I have not even started shooting arrows and how they are getting attracted to Krishna. So that means there was no material lust there. Madanopiya Sammuhya Chapam Ajaha. And in frustration, Cupid, he gave up his Sammuhya Chapam Ajahat. Pramada Uttama, although they were most beautiful ladies, but Krishna was not disturbed. Yasya Indriyai na vimathitum. They were not able to disturb the senses of Krishna in a material way. So that's how Krishna, although he was expressing his attraction to all these queens, it was not a material attraction. So Prabhupada writes about that in the purport also. Lord enjoyed in this world with his pure devotees, although he is Supreme Lord and is transcendental to all material attachment, he nevertheless exhibited much attachment for his pure devotees on the earth, as well as for the demigods who engage in his service in the heavenly planets as powerful delegated directors in the management of all material activities. So he was attached to his devotees not in a material way. Lord shows his affection and attachment to his devotees not in a material way, but in a spiritual way. That's how Lord deals with his devotees. His attachment is not the manifestation of the Maya, Mahamaya Shakti. It is a manifestation of the Yoga Maya Shakti. That's what the Chatushloki verse says, that how Lord deals with the Shakti and the Maya Shakti. That was one of the questions asked by Brahmaji. So the third Chatushloki, describes how Lord is detached from the activities of Mahamaya, but he is completely attached to the activities of Yogamaya. All these attachments of the Lord are manifestations of his internal potency, of which the external potency is also only a shadow manifestation. The 16,000, after a few lines, Prabhupada writes, 16,000 cowherd damsels are display of 16 varieties of internal potencies. It will be more explained in 10th canto. So that's how, although Krishna was doing the externals the same, it was the same way Krishna was behaving with his wives, just like the ordinary materialist behaves with the wife. But still, it was not ordinary material dealing because it was under the internal potency of the Lord. The next verse. तस्यैवं रममाणस्य संवत्सरगणान् बहून् गृहमेधेषु योगेषु विरागः समजायत.
In household life for many years, but at last detachment from uncommon sex life was fully manifested.
Tasyaiva ramamanasya, in this way enjoying the household life. Samvatsara ganan, he enjoyed many years. And ultimately, grihamedheshu, although he was staying in his house, he manifested his detachment. So in the household life, although Lord, he was completely attached, that means he was taking care of every detail, but still he was completely detached. That he showed in Maushalya Leela. He was completely detached. So a householder life means externally attached, but internally detached. And a renunciant life is externally detached and internally detached. So detachment is there in both. But in householders, external detachment may not be seen, but what matters is the internal detachment. So that is displayed. So Prabhupada writes, somebody can read this purport.
Even though the Lord is never attached to any kind of material sex life, as the universal teacher, he remained a householder for many years, just to teach others how one should live in household life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explained that the word samajayata means fully exhibited in all his activities while present on the earth. The Lord exhibited detachment. This was fully displayed when he wanted to teach by example that one should not remain attached to household life for all the days of one's life. One should naturally develop detachment as a matter of course. The Lord's detachment from household life does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates, the transcendental coward themselves. But the Lord desired to end his so-called attachment to the three modes of materialism. He can never be detached from the service of his transcendental associates like Rukmini and other goddess of Arjuna, as described in the Dhamma Samhita 5.29. Lakshmi Sahasra Satabhum Satabhum Siddhiman.
So Lord, he exhibits his detachment. So while he was on the earth, he exhibited detachment. But he was not detached from the internal potency. That's what the Chatushloki said, third one. So there are three types of devotees. Baladev Vidyabhushan writes in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita in the introduction. There is a Sanishta Bhakta, Parinishchita Bhakta, and Nirapeksha Bhakta. So Sanishchita Bhakta means that devotee who is worshipping the Lord by doing Varnashram duties. He is doing his Varnashram duty and he is serving the Lord. That is Sanishchita Bhakta. Parinishchita Bhakta means he serves the Lord mainly by Navavidha Bhakti, but he also does Varnashram duties to set a right example for others. So that is a Parinishchita Bhakta. So Sanishchita means he is doing Varnashram duties and he is worshipping the Lord by Varnashram regulations. Varnashram Acharavata Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Aradhyate Pantha Na Anyat Tattosha. That is a Sanishchita Bhakta. He worships the Lord by Varnashram duties. Parinishchita Bhakta means he serves the Lord by Navavidha Bhakti. So a devotee does not have to do any of the material duties, Varnashram duties. But still he does. Why? To set right example. That's what Krishna told Arjun. Anyone remembers the verse where Krishna is saying, you should do your work to set right example?
It gives example of
Very famous.
People don't even.
Yad yad acharati shreshta tattadeve taru janaha. So, oh Arjuna, please do your duty, because many people in the past, they have done their duty, although they were liberated. Astita janakadaya loka sangraham evapi sampashyan kartumarasi. They do their varnashram duties just to set right example. And the third one is nirapeksha bhakta. So nirapeksha bhakta, he is not concerned with varnashram at all. So his life is just composed of unalloyed devotional service of the 9 limbs of bhakti. So both second and third, parinishthit bhakta and nirapeksha bhakta, they are all unalloyed devotees. So one is working, doing his varnashram duties to set right example. Other is not concerned with the varnashram duties. Both are pure devotees. So Lord is showing by his example how one should be in this world, but not of this world. Not get attached to the things and the people of the world. The Lord's detachment from household life does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates, but he was always attached to the pure devotees. So practicing sadhaka should always be attached to practicing various limbs of Krishna consciousness and not so much attached to following the varnashram duties. But if needed, the devotee will do varnashram duties to set right example. Not that he will put faith in varnashram system, not that he will put faith in various other things mentioned in the Vedas. So that's how the devotee works. 23rd verse. Devadhineshu kameshu
Devadhineshu kam.
Daivad swayam puman
Devadhina
Swayam
Tina
Yogena
Yogeshwara
Yogeshwara Manovrata.
Every living entity is controlled by supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one therefore can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service.
Deva adhineshu kameshu. So under the influence of Daiva, that means supernatural force, Prabhupada writes. Daiva adhineshu kameshu, Daiva adhina swayam. Every living entity is controlled. So every living entity is controlled by supernatural force, and Daiva adhina swayam, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of the supernatural force. Whatever we are getting in this world, that is controlled by the supernatural powers. Depending on our karma, of course, whatever a living entity works, he gets the facility for enjoyment according to that. Ko vishrambheta yogena. But one who is a devotee of the Lord, Yogeshwaram anuvrataha. No one therefore can put faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental activities, but one who has a devotee. Only a devotee will put faith in the Lord's transcendental activities. Others will get bewildered. Others will start doubting that how this personality, he is behaving like us. He is also taking care of the family. He is also, working. So why I should consider him as God? So Krishna, he works in a way to bewilder some people. That's why Bhagavatam is also called as Mohini Murti. Bewilders those who are atheists. But a devotee never gets bewildered by seeing the various activities of the Lord. So in that same continuation of that verse, Uddhama Bhav, so there is another verse which says, the Lord and the devotees of the Lord, they never get bewildered. I don't remember that verse. Nice verse is there. The devotees of the Lord and the Lord, they never get bewildered by the material energy, illusory energy of the Lord. So that is the understanding. So only devotees, they put all the faith in the transcendental activities of Krishna. They never get confused. How Lord is acting like this? So Prabhupada writes, Janma karma chame divyam. My activities are transcendental and only a devotee can understand. Bhaktya mama bhijanati. No one but one who is enlightened by devotional service can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others. Only a devotee can understand. Bhaktya mama bhijanati. Not everyone can understand. You could find probably that verse. उसके आगे ही है. उद्दाम भाव पिशुनामल वल्गु हासा. I think few verses, after that, एक पहला word याद है. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men, demigods, within the purview of material universe is controlled by Prakriti. No one is independent. The persons who are themselves under the Etad Ishanam Ishasya Prakriti Sthopi Tadgunai Na Yujjate Sadatmastha Yatha Buddhi Tadashraya. That was the verse. This is the divinity of the Supreme Divine. Etad Ishanam Ishasya. Prakriti Asthopi. Although he is there in this material world, working like ordinary person, na yujyate, never gets attached. Similarly, yatha buddhi tadashraya, similarly the devotees, tada ashraya, those who have taken shelter of the Lord, they are also not attached affected by the material energy, although they may be working in this material world. So here Prabhupada writes, persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under control of anyone. So that's how the pure devotees, they believe the activities of the Lord, they understand the activities of the Lord, and the materialists, they get bewildered. So Chakravarti Thakur writes in this verse, explains Lord's detachment in his activities. If the Lord has detachment from his actions which are not subject to karma, what person will have affection for his own actions which produce karma? So it is like a Kaimutika Nyaya. Kaimutika Nyaya means if Lord is detached, so how we should be detached? Because although Lord works still and he doesn't get karma, so he is detached from that work and we get karma, still we get attached to that work. So that is how, by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, one develops that detachment. Okay, so now 24 to 28 verses, he describes the various events which led to the annihilation of Yadus. So now Uddhav is describing that. Puryam kadachit क्रीडभिर् यदुभोज कुमारकैः
यदुभोजा कुमारकै
हिरण्यको
उदितकामनया
Once upon
भगवान्
a time,
माता पिता
sporting activities of the princely and descendants of the Yadu and Boja dynasties, and thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them.
So now he is starting the description of what happened, how the Yadu dynasty was destroyed. So once upon a time, Puryam kadachit means once upon a time. In a sporting way, all the youth, the princely descendants, Kumarakai, they just made some fun of the sages and they were cursed. So all the descendants of Yadu dynasty, they are great devotees. How can they offend the sages? Because Krishna is Go Brahmanya Hitaya, Namo Brahmanya Devaya. So if Krishna gives such respect to the Brahmanas, to the extent that it will come in the third canto, when the four Kumaras, they go to Vaikuntha to meet Krishna, Lord Vishnu, and they were stopped by Jai Vijay, and there was a debate and curse. So then Lord Vishnu comes out and says, I take the dust of the Brahmanas on my head. That's how I've become so powerful. I am ready to lop off my own arm if it is found hostile to the Brahmanas. So if Lord Vishnu gives so much respect to Brahmanas, how can the family of Krishna offend the sages? And on top of that, sages are learned scholars. Now, how can they curse Yadu dynasty, Krishna's dynasty? They knew that it is Krishna's dynasty, but both these things happened. Why?
He wanted to show the power of Brahman.
Okay, yes. So the answer is there. Bhagavan Mat Kovida. It was all happening by the will of the Lord. The Lord Himself desired this. So Lord performs various pastimes to teach us some lessons. And the prominent lesson of this pastime is the dangers of Vaishnava Aparad. So whoever he may be, if he offends Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas, he'll be destroyed. He'll be punished. So Prabhupada writes that it is not possible that they could offend any saintly man, nor the sages could be influenced to anger by any sporting activities of the princes. The cursing of the princes by the sages was another transcendental pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. So it was all plan of the Lord. Bhagavan Mat Kovidaha. Kovida means cognizant. It was the desire of the Supreme Lord. That's why all this has happened. So there are many reasons, about the many reasons of the destruction of Yadu dynasty. So one of them is Lord wanted to show how Vaishnava Prad is serious. Another reason was he wanted to take all the descendants back. So we discussed that also a little bit last time. Okay, next verse. Tata katipayair masair रथैर्देव विमोहिताः
A few months passed, and then bewildered by Krishna, all the descendants of Vrishni, Bhoja, and Andhaka, who were incarnations of demigods, went to Prabhas, while those who were eternal devotees of the Lord did not leave but remained in Dwarka.
So now he's telling what happened actually. So when this curse was described to Ugrasen, so Ugrasen, he instructed all of them to go to Prabhas. And of course, Krishna and Balaram also went. So why they went to Prabhas when Krishna was there? How can there be any calamity in presence of Krishna? Because they started seeing all the calamities also. So how is this possible? It was all plan of the Lord. Lord has orchestrated all these wonderful events. So when in the beginning of the 10th canto we hear the Mother Earth, she goes to Brahmaji and Brahmaji takes her to Vishnu, Shirodaksha Vishnu, all the Devatas, along with all the Devatas, they prayed, and Lord Vishnu, he tells Brahmaji, invisibly, he could hear. And Lord Vishnu tells them, you go, don't worry, I'm going to take avatar, and you all Devatas, you also take birth in the Yadu dynasty. So all the associates of Dwarka, of Krishna in Dwarka, they are eternal associates also, and they are having a Devata portion also. So they have two people in them. One is the Devata portion, another is the eternal associate. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, the Vrishnis eternally remain in Dwarka. They do not leave. They remained there, invisible to the eyes of common people. Their going was an appearance created by the Lord. Deva Mohita. The word used is Deva Mohita. Rathair Deva Mohita. So people, they thought, okay, that Vrishnis are going, but actually the eternal associates, they continue to stay in Dwarka. Only those who were Devata portions, they went there in Prabhas Kshetra. And there what happened? Tatra snatva pitrin devan rishim chaiva tadambhasa
Rishim
Shiva Tadambasa
tarpayitvat viprebhyo
Tarpayitvat
gavo
Viprobhyo
gunadahuh.
Gao Bahoguna Dadhu.
After arriving there, all of them took bath, and with the water of this place of pilgrimage, they offered their respects to the forefathers, demigods, and great sages, and thus satisfied them. They gave vows to the Brahmanas in loyal charity.
Okay, so there they went, they took bath and offered their respects to the Pitris. So that's what they did there. So again in the purport, Prabhupada writes, among the devotees of the Lord, there are Nitya Siddhas and there are Sadhana Siddha. So who are the Sadhana Siddhas? Those who are conditioned soul and then they practice Sadhana Bhakti and then they get liberated. So the Sadhana Bhaktas, Sadhana Siddha, when they become liberated, what are they called? So Nitya Siddhas, eternal associates of the Lord. They come perform pastimes, so they are Nitya. So after the sadhana bhaktas, they do sadhana bhakti, they are sadhanas, sadhakas, and then they get liberated. Then what are they called?
Sadhana Siddhas.
After they get liberated, they are in their spiritual world. उनका अलग एक camp रहता है. ये साधन सिद्ध है. So actually, they become Nitya Siddhas. Yeah. So when the sadhaka, he perfects his life, Siddhi, he has perfected his life by sadhana. But when he gets liberated, he is also called as Nitya only. He's eternally liberated now. So that is the understanding. So Nitya Siddha means they are eternally liberated, and the Sadhana Siddha also becomes Nitya Siddha when he perfects his life. So that is what Chakravarti Thakur writes in one of the purport. So Prabhupada writes, out of sadhana siddhas, there are mixed and pure devotees. Mixed devotees are sometimes enthusiastic about fruitive activities, jnana and karma. The pure devotees are free from the mixtures. They are completely absorbed in service of the Lord. Pure devotees are not enthusiastic to put aside their service in order to go visit holy places of pilgrimage. In Bhaktya Loka, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes about prayas, in Atyahar prayas. There is one prayas which he calls as prayas to go to holy places. Unnecessary endeavor in going to various holy places, that is also prayas. Over endeavor. Some devotees are like that. सब तीर्थ यात्रा चल रहा है उनका, एक के बाद एक तीर्थ यात्रा ही कर रहे हैं. That is endeavor, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Over endeavor should not be done, because the purpose of going to holy places is to hear and then serve also. So if somebody is just going to holy places just for sightseeing, basically, not for increasing a devotion, just for going to so many places and visiting the holy places, इधर जाके ये धाम का दर्शन करके आएंगे, इधर ये यहाँ पे ये दर्शन चल रहा है बस, that is also prayas. That's what Prabhupada writes. Pure devotees are not enthusiastic to put aside their service in order to go to visit holy places. Because ultimately devotee is only interested in seva. All his activities make them more enthusiastic, makes him more enthusiastic in serving the Lord in a better way. A great devotee of the Lord, Narottam Das Thakur has sung, to visit holy places is another kind of bewilderment of the mind. It is bewilderment because devotional service to the Lord at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection. That's how to understand the nuances of, bhakti is very important. What is actual devotion and what is pretension? That is a very thin line. When we get deviated from actual devotion to enjoyment in the name of devotion. If somebody is just going to holy places, enjoying the sights, enjoying the darshan, that becomes prayas. It is another bewilderment of the mind because he's just enjoying the sights. He's not doing bhakti. He's enjoying the sight. Salokya sarishti samipya sarupya aikatvam apyuta diyamanam na grahnanti vinamat sevanam jana. Devotee is not interested in going to any place, not even liberation, if service is not there. So service is important. So that's what Prabhupada is emphasizing here. For pure devotees of the Lord who are completely satisfied with service of the Lord, there is hardly any necessity to visit the various places of pilgrimage. So why Prabhupada is giving such a heavy purport? Because all the Yadus, they were with Krishna and they're leaving Krishna and going to Prabhas for a pilgrimage just to counteract the effects of the curse. So that's this mentality, which can come in Vishnu dynasty. So how much we should be careful. So if we start taking shelter of some other things and not understanding the importance of devotional service, that is a distraction. And one of the things which is very distracting in devotee community nowadays is taking shelter of astrology. It is really, going deep in the devotee community, taking shelter of astrology, not taking shelter of Krishna. So, anyways, we can discuss about it some other time. That is another big topic. So, we should always be very careful about what will distract our attention, divert our faith from the practice of bhakti. It may look like, okay, I am going to holy place, what's the problem? But the mentality is more important. I am going to this astrology so that I can solve my problem, so that I can serve Krishna better. Mentality is the issue. We are dividing our faith. Yo yo yamyam tanum bhakta shraddhayarchitum ichchati tasya tasyachalam shraddham tameva vidadamyam. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if somebody goes to a devata, I make the faith of that person in that devata very strong. So our faith is, in danger. So that is, one should be very careful. Those who are not so advanced have the prescribed duties of visiting pilgrimage sites and regularly performing the rituals. The part of the princely order of the Yadu dynasty who went to Prabhas performed all duties to be done in a place of pilgrimage and offered their pious actions to forefathers. As a rule, every human being is indebted. Thus, everyone is obliged to repay the debt of gratitude. The Yadus who went to Prabhas performed their duties. At the same, this verse is oft quoted in devotee circle. Devarshi bhuta pranam pitrinam naking karo nayam rinicharajan sarvatmanaya saranam sharanyam gatom kundam pariritya kartum. A devotee who has practiced, who has surrendered his life, has no debt. So, who is this devotee? So, should a sadhaka bhakta perform these rituals? Because Sharanam Sharanyam, the word is a very heavy word. So, the general understanding which is given is I am not a surrendered soul. So, I have to do these duties. Otherwise, how will I be free from this debt? But actually, as soon as we start practicing the process of bhakti, even at the stage of Adav Shraddha, all our karmic reactions are destroyed. Krishna destroys, bhakti destroys all that. So a devotee does not have to do any of these rituals mentioned in the scriptures, in the Vedas, in the Puranas, or in the Karma Kandi rituals. Bhakti is sufficient to purify and even deliver the devatas, even deliver the pitris. There is a verse in Chaitanya Bhagavat which says, As soon as the devotees, as soon as one takes to the process of Krishna consciousness, becomes a devotee, even the ancestors start dancing in the Pitriloka. Nrityanti pitara sarve nrityanti cha pitamaha madhavamshe vaishnava jata sametrata bhavishyati. So that is the power of devotional service. So therefore, Prabhupada is writing they didn't have to do all these things because they are great devotees of the Lord. They are themselves a family. So, but still they are doing it. Okay, so we'll go to the next verse. Hiranyam rajatam shayyam vasam sajina kalpana kambalan
वासांसे जीर्ण
jnanam
कम्बलान्
pradhani kanya dharam vritti
ज्ञानस्थानधानकन्या
karimapi.
धरां वृत्ति परेमपि.
The Brahmanas were not only given well-fed cows in charity, but also gold coins, bedding, clothing, animal skin, seeds, blankets, horses, elephants, girls, and sufficient land for music.
So they were doing all these things. So we'll go to the next verse. Translation, somebody can read. 28th translation.
There
Hare
are
Krishna.
they of highly delicious.
Therefore, they offered the Brahmanas highly delicious foodstuff, first offered to the personality of Godhead, and offered their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground, and they lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmanas. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay, so these yadus, when they took bath there, they did charity, and they fed brahmanas with prasadam, and they offered their obeisances. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and brahmanas. That's the ideal behavior. So Prabhupada writes, the behavior exhibited by the descendants of Yadu in the pilgrimage site of Prabhas was highly cultured and exactly to the point of human perfection. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, the Vrishnis whose lives were dedicated to cows and brahmanas, offered them food which was offered to the Lord. This shows that they were strict followers of dharma. Thus, their disappearance was completely dependent on the Lord alone. So they were not doing anything sinful. So anything, which is apparently bewildering, in this pastime, it is all the plan of the Lord. He also intended to show that it is not proper for the Brahmana to show anger. By this act as well, the Devta portions now separated from the Yadus, who were the eternal associates of the Lord, and returned to their places in Swarga. So that's how Lord performs so many activities by one action. So Prabhupada in the purport, he describes about how Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, they do not accept any foodstuff which is not offered to the Lord. And then he says everything should be offered to the Lord. That's the way to purify all the various articles. Yagyarthat karmananyatra, Prabhupada quotes that also. Okay, so that's how this chapter ends. And then in the 4th chapter, Uddhavji continues the story. What happened after they were serving Brahmanas, giving charity, taking care of all the cows. So what happened later? Uddhava uvacha atate tadangyata bhukva pitva chavaruni
Bhukत्वा पीत्वा च
maya
वारुणिम्
vibhramshita jnana
तया
durukte
विभ्रंशितं ज्ञानाम् हृदे मर्मपरशु.
Thereafter, all of them, descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of remnants of prasad and also drank liquor made up of rice. By drinking, they all become delirious and bereft of knowledge. It does the course of others' heart in partnerships.
Athate tad anugyata. So they were permitted by the Brahmanas. So they took the prasad, bhuktva, pitva, chavarunim, and they drank liquor also. It is mentioned in the scriptures, in the 11th canto, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita describes that drinking liquor was allowed only in certain occasions. And one of that is when, if it is, in some sacrifices, it is allowed, not every time. It is not free license given, you can drink anytime. In some certain sacrifices, drinking of liquor is allowed only in those sacrifices, not always. So it is not mentioned, but they also drank some liquor. But what happened? Taya vibramshita jnana. By drinking, they became delirious, and vibramshita, they became bereft of all the knowledge. So what they did? Durukti, by the harsh words, they started insulting marma pasprishu, which touched their hearts. So the wounds on the tongue, they get healed in few days. But the wounds created by the tongue, they may take years to heal. So this is how it all started. They started insulting each other. And this shows the power of intoxication. That one completely becomes bereft of all the good sense. And these Yadus, they started criticizing each other, insulting each other. So actually, Chakravarti Thakur writes in detail that what all things, how it started. They started telling, because of you, Kripacharya, you were the cause for all this destruction, because you are on the side of Kauravas and so many things. They all started with simple joking, and then it became little more, and ultimately they started criticizing each other and insulting in heavy words. So the power of gambling is described in this Yudhishthir Maharaj's case. Power of intoxication is described in this case. So then he gives an analogy in the second verse. Tesham maireya doshena shamīkrita chetasam
Vishamīkrita-chetasām
nimlokatiravāsīt
nimlochati
dvinunāmiva mardanam.
dvinunāmivavartanam.
Destruction takes place.
So at sunset, by the introduction of the faults of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place.
So just like the bamboos, they rub each other in the forest, and the entire forest gets burnt. Similarly, by the interaction of the faults of intoxication, their minds became imbalanced. So Prabhupada elaborates on this purport. There is no need, when there is need of fire in the forest, by the will of the Supreme, it takes place due to friction among the bamboos. Nobody goes to the forest to set it on fire. Similarly, in this world, the friction sometimes arises on some very trivial issues, and it becomes a big fire. Similarly, the descendants of Yadu were all destroyed by the will of the Lord, by the process of self-destruction. Just as there is no possibility of fires occurring deep in the forest due to human effort, so also there is no power in the universe which could vanquish the descendants of Yadu. The Lord wanted them to be so destroyed. That is indicated by the words Tad Anugyata. It was all the will of the Lord. There was no other reason for this. Somebody may say, so Vidurji may say, how can the Lord, who is so compassionate to elevated and fallen souls, how can he witness the killing of his own sons and grandsons and servants and dear persons like Pradyumna? How can he do all this? How can witness all this? So in the next verse, Uddhavji answers this. Bhagavan swata mayaya gatim tam
भगवान्
avalokitaha
स्वात्ममायाया
saraswatim
गतिं ताम्
upasprishya
अवलोक्य स
vrikshamulam upavishad.
सरस्वतीमुपस्पृश्य वृक्षं मूल उपाविशत्.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family by his internal potency, went to the bank of river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree.
So Krishna, he was foreseeing the end of his family by his internal potency. So Krishna could understand that now it is time to wind up everything. So this was the action of Maya, Gatim Maya. It was the action of Maya. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, it was a convincing display by which common people would think that the Yadavas were destroyed quickly by killing each other. No, they will start doubting. Those who have less faith, they'll start doubting that is he Supreme Lord? And are these people, Yadu dynasty, there is some special thing about them? Because they killed themselves. So it means they are normal people. So that's how this Maya belongs to the Lord, Swatma Maya. So the Yadavas, Pradyumna and all the eternal associates, they actually remained in Dwarka. And the Devatas, they separated Devata portions and they went to Prabhasa. And ultimately they returned to Swarga. So Prabhupada writes also in the purport, all the above mentioned activities of Yadus and Bhojas were executed by internal potency because he wanted them to be dispatched to their respective abodes. So that's how Krishna, he manifested this Maushala Leela. It was all arranged by the Lord. Next, continues. Aham chokto bhagavata prapannarti harenaha
भगवता
badarim
प्रपन्नाति हरिणः
prayahiti swakulam sanchihirshuna.
प्रयाहेति स्वकुलं सञ्जिहीषुणाम्.
God is the vanquisher of the distress of one who is surrendered to him. Thus he desired to destroy his family told he previously go to Badrikar.
So, now after Uddhavji, he could understand that this is about to happen. So Uddhav is telling, when I saw all these Yadus, even before going to the Prabhasa, so Krishna sent all the Yadus to Prabhasa. Uddhavji came and met with Krishna. And he said, oh Lord, I know that you are about to wind up your pastimes. I don't want to get separated from you. Please take me also with you. So there he met. And there Krishna told Uddhava some instructions. But that was not Uddhava Gita. Uddhava Gita was the instruction given by Krishna to Uddhava after this Maushalya Lila in Prabhas under the banyan tree. So this is described. Uddhava is describing he met Krishna in Dwarka. And there, Badrim Tvam Prayahiti. He told me to go to Badrikashram. So Prabhupada writes, while at Dwarka, Uddhava was warned to avoid the distress which were to follow the disappearance of the Lord and the destruction of Yadu dynasty. He was advised to proceed to Badrikashram because there he would associate with the devotees of Naranarayan. So, and it is described in the 11th canto also that Krishna, he told Uddhava, I have done all my, pastimes, all my, whatever intentions I came here with, they are all done. One thing is remaining. I could not give my mercy to the sages of Badrikashram. So this is your duty now. You go and you explain all these wonderful pastimes to those sages. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, the reasons for the Lord speaking to him are given. First reason is that Lord wanted to remove the suffering of separation of Uddhava. The word used is Prapannarti Harena, one who removes the distress of the surrendered. Uddhava was in complete distress. He didn't want to get separated from the Lord. Satsangan muktadu sango hatum notsahate buddha kirtyamanam yasho yasya sakrit akarnya rochanam tasminyasta buddha partha sahiram viraham katham darshan sparsha sanlapa shayanasana bhojanai. Anybody who has got association of the devotee of the Lord, they cannot get separated from devotees. What to speak of a person who is continuously with Krishna? They were dining with Krishna, moving around with Krishna, doing everything with Krishna. And Uddhavaji is the topmost of that. He was the best friend of Krishna. Vrishninam pravaro mantri Krishnasya daita sakha. He was the dearmost friend of Krishna. So it was unbearable for him to bear separation. So Lord wanted to just relieve this pain of separation. So therefore he told, I have a service for you. When you do service, then your distress of separation will go away. That's why he told you go to Vadrigashram. Second reason, Lord would relieve the pain in the form of longing to hear about bhakti, jnana, vairagya, and Lord's pastimes of those living in Badrikashram who are also surrendered to the Lord. So there, when you go to Badrikashram, what you will do? You will discuss my pastimes, my glories. That will reduce the pain of separation. So that's how Krishna's purpose of descent was over. But one purpose was remaining, that he could not go to Badrikashram. So therefore, he told Uddhava, you go. Tathapi tadabhipretam janannaham arindama Trishtato anvagamam bhartuhu
Prishtato
padavishlekshanakshamaha.
Pada Vishlekshana Kshama.
Yet in spite of my desire to destroy the enemy, so
Arindama.
Arindam, I followed him because it was impossible for me to be a separation from the lotus feet of the master.
Okay, so although Krishna told you go to Badrikashram, but still, tathapi tat abhipretam. Abhipretam means intention, a desire. His Lord's desire was you go to Vrindavan, you go to Badrikashram. But still, he says, still I could not follow the instructions of Krishna. What I did? Prishthato anvagamam. I followed behind Krishna. Bhartu pad vishlekshana. Aksham means I was not able to bear the separation from Krishna. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, Abhipretam means that though the Lord ordered that he go to Badrikashram, Uddhava understood that Krishna would not give him up so easily. So therefore he followed the Lord. Or it can mean that Uddhava understood Krishna's intention to destroy the dynasty. So that's how he followed his master. And there, now after this, he fast forwards. He doesn't tell what happened in the past because he had already told. They drank and they killed. So after this killing of all the Yadus, what happened? That is being described here in the 6th verse. Adrakshamasinam Chinvandai Dampatim
Chinvandai Dampatim
Shiliketam
Thus following, I saw my patron and master, Lord Shri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of the river Saraswati, although he is the shelter of the goodness of fortune.
Okay, so Adra Aksham, there I saw. Ekamasina sitting alone. Which in one? He was deeply thinking. Daitam Patim, my master. He was Sriniketa, he is the shelter of goddess of fortune, Sriniketa. And Kritketam, Aketanam. Kritketa means he was taking shelter of a banyan tree. Aketanam, he was without a shelter. He had no shelter. So therefore he was taking shelter of a banyan tree. So this is a very interesting word. How can Krishna be without shelter? Aketanam. So Chakravarti Thakur, he describes that. He says Krishna is addressed as having no shelter because everyone is taking his shelter. Whose shelter he will take? That's why he is called as Aketanam. It's like it comes in the 10th canto. Rukmini is telling Krishna. Krishna told her that actually you should not have accepted me because we are not equal in qualities. You are such a wonderful queen, and people from all over the world, they wanted to marry you. And just see, I ran away out of fear of Jarasan, and you are marrying me. So Rukmini there replies that yes, actually I can never be equal to you because you are the abode of all good qualities. How can I be equal to you? So that's how. And then Krishna says, actually, I ran out of fear of the kings and I took shelter of the ocean. So Rukmini says, that is true, but actually, you have no fear. You know what is the fear Lord Krishna has? Very wonderful. Chakravarti Thakur writes there. Lord Krishna fears that his devotee will come under the influence of modes of nature. And therefore, he enters the internal ocean of the hearts, their hearts, and he remains there as super soul. So that's how Lord is not, a Keta. He is a shelter of everyone, but he takes shelter of the ocean of the heart of devotees because he is fearful. Hey, devotee kahin chala na jaye, That's how he is more fearful. We may not be fearful in when we are experimenting with material energy, but Lord is more fearful. Kya kar rahe? What is he doing? Why is he playing with Maya? So that's how Lord is so very fearful when it comes to devotees. Okay, then. So Uddhavji, he saw the Lord sitting under the banyan tree. And the beautiful form of the Lord is described there. Shyamavadatam virajam
Shyamadatam Virajam Prashantaruణalochanam Dobhir Pitakausambarena cha. Hare Krishna, the Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as a super personality of Godhead by his four hands, different symbolic representation, and yellow silk garments.
So Lord was in four-handed form, as there's a beautiful picture you can see. Okay, I've put on the slide. So all of you must have seen the picture in Lord Krishna sitting under the banyan tree with four hands, and Vidurji approaches, and besides him, Maitreya Muni is also standing. So that's the description. Shama Vadatam, Lord's body is blackish. Virajam, pure goodness. Prashanta, very peaceful. Arunalochana, reddish eyes. And that's how he was present in a four-handed Chaturbhi Viditam. Vama Urava Adhishritya Dakshinangri Saroruham
Dakshinangri Saroruham
Akshwatham
Apashitam
Akrisham Pippalam.
Akrisham Tatpipalam.
The Lord was taking rest against a young banyan tree with his right lotus foot on his left thigh. And although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture.
Okay. So exact description is there. Vama Urava Adhishritya. So Vama means the left thigh. So he was placing his right foot on the left thigh. So this commonly we sit sometimes like that. Right foot on the left thigh. He was sitting like that. And Dakshinangri Saroru, and he was having a lotus flower in the hands, in one hand. And what he was doing, he was taking shelter of Arpita Ashra Arbhaka Ashwatham. Arbhaka Ashwatham means young banyan tree. He was taking shelter of a young banyan tree. Tyakta Pippalam, having given up all the household comforts. He looked quite cheerful. So, Chakravarti Thakur and Prabhupada also quotes him. What is this? Tyakta Arbhaka Ashwatha. He says, young banyan tree. Ashwa. Means not. Shwa means tomorrow. Stha means not exist. So Ashwatha means that which will not exist tomorrow. Ashwa, Astha. Ashwatha. So actually this material world is Ashwatha. Ashwathamenam suviroda moolam sangashastrena dridena chitva. Krishna says 15th chapter. This material world is like a banyan tree, great banyan tree. Ashwatha. So na shwatishtati, that which does not stay tomorrow, it will not last tomorrow. So that is the meaning of Ashwatha. And he says this tree is called as young, banyan tree, because of all the universes, our universe is very small. It is the smallest one. That's why our Brahma has only 4 heads. Some Brahmas has 8 heads, 16 heads, depending on the size of the universe. So Tyakta Pippala means Lord has given up his pastimes in this material world. Tyakta Pippalam. He has given up. So Pippala refers to material happiness. So Lord has given up all his pastimes in the world. That's why he's called as Tyakta Pippala. So Prabhupada also writes that. Ashwatha is the banyan tree is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. It continues to live for many, many years. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external energy and therefore are kept to his back. And because this particular universe is smallest of all, the banyan tree is designated as Arbhaka Ashwatha, young banyan tree. Tyakta Pippala, he has finished his pastimes. He is now prepared to leave the world. So when we hear this description, the Lord is leaving. How can Lord leave the world? Prabhupada gives an example. Just like the sun, if somebody says sun has set, sun is gone. Sun has not gone. It has just disappeared from our vision. So that's what Prabhupada writes. Just as sun rises on one particular planet and sets in another simultaneously, but does not change its own position. So Krishna is not affected by all the, appearance and disappearance pastimes. So that's how the Lord was resting at that time. Somebody else was also there. Tasmin Mahabhagavato Ayan Surit Sakha Asasadha Yadrichaya.
At that time,
After spending parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna Dvaipaya and Vyas, reached that spot out of his own perfect accord. Hare Krishna.
Tasmin, that time, a great devotee of the Lord, Mahabhagavata. Who was he? Krishna Dvaipayan Surit Sakha, the dearmost friend of Krishna Dvaipayan Vyasa. He was Maitreya Muni. Lokan, Anucharan, he was traveling in all the 3 worlds. Anucharan, Siddha, that personality, Yaasasada, he arrived. How he arrived there? Yadrichaya. This word comes many times. Yadrichaya. Apne aap aa gaye udhar. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, whenever this word yadrichaya comes, it is not any chance, is the plan of the Lord. It is ordained by the Lord. So wherever the word yadrichaya comes in Bhagavatam, it is the plan of the Lord. There is no other plan. There is nothing else but the plan. When Narad Muni arrived at the place where Nalkur, Manigriv were taking bath, enjoying yadrichaya, Nalkur, Manigriv could have said, इतने सारे जगह में इधर ही आना था इनको, But yadrichaya, it was ordained. Lord wanted to show them mercy. Yadrichaya. Sukdev Goswami arrived in the assembly of the sages and Parikshit. Yadrichaya, it was our plan of the Lord. So out of its his own perfect accord, that is described. So Maitreya Muni, he was a disciple of Parashar, the father of Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva and Maitreya, they were like classmates, friends, school friends. By some fortunate accident, Maitreya reached the place where Krishna was resting. To meet the Lord is not an ordinary incident. So it is not an ordinary thing for somebody to reach a place where Krishna is there. There is no phone call, no communication made कि अभी यहाँ पे कृष्णा है और अभी he's going to tell Uddhava all these wonderful instructions. Lord inspired. That's how pure devotees are perfectly connected to the Lord through Paramatma. And wherever Paramatma guides them, they reach there exactly at the right time. So Maitreya reached there. Maitreya was a great sage and a learned scholar, philosopher, but not a pure devotee. He was not a pure devotee yet. He was a Gyan Mishra Bhakta. He was not a pure devotee. Therefore, meeting with the Lord at that time may have been due to Agyata Sukriti. He must have done something in the past. That's why he could meet the Lord at this time. Agyata Sukriti. The pure devotees always engage in devotional service, and therefore meeting with the Lord is natural. But when those who are not up to that standard meet the Lord, it is Agyata Sukriti. So all of us have received that fortune, of associating with great souls by the mercy of Prabhupada. One devotee asked Prabhupada, what was our fortune? What was our qualification that we got a chance to practice Krishna consciousness? What did Prabhupada say? Anyone knows that? One devotee asked Prabhupada, what was our qualification? He thought Prabhupada will glorify. You are completely qualified. That's why you got bhakti. What Prabhupada said? I made your qualification. है तुम्हारा कुछ भी नहीं है. I made your qualification. So that's the same case with Narad Muni in the first canto, the Bhakti Vedantis. The first thing which comes is, out of the 14 steps, what is the first thing? Radha Shraddha Sadhu Satam Kripa. The first thing is Satam Kripa. So it is the mercy of the devotee. Okay, so then, now Maitreya Muni, although he is described as not a pure devotee, but still, in the next verse, it is described that he was really attached to the Lord, greatly attached to him. So this Agyata Sukriti is sufficient to, make one completely attracted to the Lord and purify him of all his karmic reactions. That is sufficient. Even at the beginning of Adav Shraddha, the karmic reactions are destroyed. Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukham kramineva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratatmana. So what is this krama? It happens gradually. What is this gradual? Because Chakravarti Thakur describes in many places that even at the level of Adav Shraddha, the karma is gone. Devotee does not suffer because of karma. Because karma is destroyed even at the Adav Shraddha. So even before that, when the person is acquiring Agyata Sukriti, that is destroying the karmic reactions. What is Agyat Sukriti? Sanketyam, Parihasyam, Stobham, Helanam, Vaikunthanam, Garhana, Ashesha, Aghaharam. Somehow or other, if somebody is chanting the name of the Lord with some simple faith without offenses, sufficient to destroy karma. So, stage of Agyat Sukriti is sufficient to destroy karma. So, Adav Shraddha, the karmic reactions are destroyed. After that, whatever happens in the life of a devotee, it is completely the will of the Lord. And result of the offenses. All the wrong things, all the problems. So, Agyata Sukriti. Now, this Maitreya Muni, he was really attached to the Lord. Tasyanuraktasya muner mukundaha
Tasyanuraktasya munirmukundaha
Kandharasya
Ramadubhavantada Karanasya Tamanugrahasa Samikshaya Vishramayanu Maitre Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude, with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest. This Lord spoke as follows.
So Tasya Anuraktasya. So Maitreya was completely attached to the Lord. Should we discuss this reasons for appearance for the annihilation of Yadu dynasty in detail? बाद में कभी discuss करें. Because this has come. Actually, I had actually noted it. I was about to discuss, but I forgot. So, in brief, we'll discuss the 13 reasons which is described in the 11th canto. Why Krishna annihilated? Okay, we'll discuss this verse and then I'll describe that. So, Tattasya Anuraktasya, he was greatly attached to the Mukunda. Pramoda, in a very pleasing attitude, he was listening with Anat Kandharasya. Anat Kandharasya is a very common, expression when you are in front of such a great personality. You are like, Anat Kandharasya, lowered shoulders. You are not proud, So you are humble. So Maitreya, he was Anat Kandharasya, lowered shoulders. And Ashrinvato, as the Lord was speaking to me, Lord was not even looking at Maitreya. That is described. He was not even looking at Maitreya. He was just speaking to Uddhava. Ashinvato mam anurag hasa. As the Lord was speaking to me with a smile and samikshaya, with a merciful glance, vishramayan vacha, having allowed me to rest. So the Lord has told Uddhava, please sit down. And he was speaking to Uddhavji, and Maitreya, he was listening in a very, very surrendered mood, submissive mood. That qualified him to become a pure soul. Prabhupada writes, Uddhava was a spotlessly pure devotee, and Maitreya was Jnana Bhakta. So Maitreya was a Jnana Bhakta and Uddhava was a pure devotee. Although Maitreya was a devotee, his devotion was mixed. Lord reciprocates with his devotees on the basis of transcendental love and not on the basis of philosophical knowledge. Aishwarya Jnanete Sarva Jagata Mishrit Aishwarya Shithila Prema Nahi Mora Preet. Lord doesn't get attracted by love which is mixed with Aishwarya. And Prabhupada writes that how the gopis in Vrindavan, they were neither learned scholars nor yogis, but they had spontaneous love. And he became their heart and soul. And the gopis also became the heart and soul of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya approved the relationship of the gopis. Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesha Tanaya Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachit Upasana Brajvadhu Vargena Vakalpita. So that's how Lord deals with his devotees. So there are, in the 11th canto, there are various reasons described. First is, we have heard, many demigods had come to assist the Lord, so Krishna had to send them back. So that's why he performed this Kaushala Leela. Second reason, Krishna had a concern, we had discussed this last time, that Yadus are so very attached to Krishna, and if I leave, if he leaves, Krishna leaves, they'll go mad. They'll go around and destroy the world. That's how he had to send them. And Krishna felt that some Yadus, they had started behaving wildly, and they will become burden on the earth. But we discussed how this was the burden of love, not the burden of the beast. So that's why Krishna sent them. Fourth reason, Chakravarti Thakur writes in the 11th canto.
I didn't understand the difference between second and third. Yadu will go mad and then burden.
Some Yadavas, they started behaving little wildly, even when Krishna was there. So, so that's how he started thinking. He thought that maybe I should plan in a way that they should not become more wild when I leave. So it looks the same, but the burden of the Mother Earth, they'll become burden on Mother Earth. That is more emphasized in the third point. So they'll destroy the earth and they'll become the burden on the earth. You can take it as one also. Then next is, Krishna noticed that some of the Yadavas, they had become inimical to Krishna, and they forgot the supremacy of Krishna. So Krishna wanted to destroy them also. Another reason. When such Yadavas become inimical, other people will follow, because they will see that these are Yadavas. If they are behaving like this, we will also behave like them. And the whimsical behavior of the Yadavas will become the standard. So therefore, Krishna didn't want to give a chance for this, so he destroyed them. All these are given in the purports of Prabhupada or Chakravarti Thakur, the 11th canto. Another reason, Krishna was thinking that if my dynasty will remain, then later their descendants, they will get undue reputation, recognition. Ye to Krishna ke vanshaj. They'll get puffed up. And what will happen? They will offend the pure Vaishnavas. So that's how, to avoid this, he destroyed his descendants. Prabhupada writes in 11.1.6 purport, 11th canto, 1st chapter, 6th verse purports. Prabhupada writes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu and Advaitacharya, they also perceived the same thing. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had no children. Nityanand Prabhu had one. Advaitacharya had 6, but out of them 3 became Mayavadis and 3 became devotees. So Mahaprabhu, no children. So Nityanand Prabhu, Veerbhadra, only one. And Advaitacharya, he was very careful. He rejected the other 3 sons. So Adilila 9th chapter, 11th chapter, Kaviraj Goswami says there are some actual followers of Advaitacharya and there are some false followers, Sara and Asara. So Advaitacharya rejected those 3 Mayavadi sons. Sant Prabhupada talks about the Nityanand Vamsh there. There are some Goswamis, they are calling themselves, we are dynasty of Nityananda Prabhu. We are the original Goswamis. So, and how Saraswati Thakur had to struggle a lot, to establish that this is not, Goswami is not a caste, it is based on the qualification. So that's how Krishna wanted to avoid this. And next reason is, Krishna is teaching all of us that there is nothing permanent in this world. Even if Krishna's family comes, it will be destroyed. Everything is temporary in this world. Prabhupada writes, the story of disappearance of Yadu dynasty is specially meant to help the conditioned souls achieve liberation from the bondage of material life. So by hearing this story, we should understand Nothing is permanent in this world. Even Yadu dynasty, the eternal associates of the Lord, they are also destroyed. So, how we should be careful. So, this entire situation was arranged by Krishna to teach a lesson to the conditioned souls. Another reason, he wanted to protect common people from impersonalism, that Jiva cannot become equal to the Lord. So, what is this? Prabhupada writes in the 11.1.4 purport. He says, ordinary people, what they'll think, that heroes of Yadu dynasty are as worshipable as Krishna. And that will create Mayavad. They will worship the followers and descendants of Krishna same as Krishna, and that will create Mayavad philosophy. So that Krishna wanted to destroy this impersonalism. Prabhupada writes, there is tangible danger that ignorant living beings will worship inimical persons, revering them as close associates of Krishna. He gives an example. To consider Kamsa, so Kamsa is a relative of Krishna, and the faithful servant of Krishna. He is also a servant of Krishna. Both are equal. That is Mayavad. So Krishna didn't want to, spread this Mayavad. Another reason, Prabhupada writes, Krishna wanted to prove that one can't be a devotee just by being born in a high family. Just because these sons, they are in family of Krishna, that does not mean that they can do anything. So one has to qualify himself to become a great personality. And another reason, Krishna wanted to demonstrate the uselessness of Sahajiya Sampradaya. What was Sahajiya Sampradaya? The Yadu boys, they were imitating women, and they put some cloth, and so but nothing will come out. Just like a woman who is not pregnant, even if she cries, she will not give birth. So what is Sahajiya? Prabhupada writes, unauthorized persons have initiated the process of deceitfully bestowing a women's dress on their followers. Sakhi Beki and all those upper sampradayas, they dress as ladies and sakhis, thinking that the bhava of Krishna will come out, bhava of gopis will come. It is not so cheap. So that's what Prabhupada writes, danger of Mayavad, Sahajiya. Another reason, he says, if one offends a Brahmana, there is no hope for him, whoever he may be. It is Hati Mata Aparad. It comes in the 4th canto, Daksha Yagya. Nandi gives 3 curses to people who offend Vaishnavas. They'll be bereft of the knowledge, they'll be attached to primitive activities, and they will go down in lower and lower species of life. They'll continue in samsara. Another reason, if someone breaks the etiquette, he'll be punished. You can, it is like same as previous. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why Krishna annihilated the Yadu dynasty. So now after this, Uddhavaji Krishna is about to instruct Uddhav, and Maitreya Muni comes. He is standing with lower shoulders. Now Krishna starts speaking to Uddhavji. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedamanta Manasipsitam Mette
Manasim
Yatta Durvapamanyaihi Vishvam Vasunam
Atre Pura Vishwasrujam Vasunam
Tvayeshtaha.
Kamen Maso Tveshtaha.
I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desired to achieve my association. This is very difficult to obtain for others, but I award it unto you.
So now Lord is telling that how you are one of the Vasu, and as Vasu, you wanted to have my association. Ved aham, I know all that. What was there in your mind? Manas ipsitam. Manas, what is there in the mind of every conditioned, every living entity? Krishna knows. What is in the mind of a devotee? Krishna knows. Dadami yattad, I'll give all that to you. Duravapam, although it is very difficult to achieve. What is very difficult to achieve? My association. Krishna is saying, my association is very difficult. That's what Narad Muni told Uttanpad. And after Dhruva, he goes to the forest, he performs tapasya, he gets darshan of the Lord. Narad Muni comes and tells, "O king, don't worry. Sudushkaram karam kritva lokapalairapi prabho. Sudushkaram, your son has done the most difficult task in the entire creation. It is duravapam. Nobody can achieve it so easily. It is very difficult. But still, I will give you." So Chakravarti Thakur writes about Vasu. He says, because you were previously Vasu at the sacrifice in which Brahma and the Vasus participated, I was worshipped by you with a desire to attain me. Actually, this Vasu entered into the Nitya Siddha Uddhava. So that Vasu also desired to have association of Krishna. So he entered the body of Uddhava. Even though Uddhava is a Nitya Siddha, here he is revealed as Sadhana Siddha along with Maitreya to protect the secret of his eternal pastimes. So Lord is not revealing, you are a pure devotee, you are eternal soul, eternal associate. He wants to protect secret because Maitreya is also there. Some say that eternal Uddhava stayed at Dwarka and the Uddhava who was Vasu came to Saraswati River. And there is another reason also given. Some acharyas say this. Chakravarti Thakur writes in the purport. So Prabhupada writes about this. Uddhava was one of the 8 Vasus. He did tapasya, sacrifices to please the Lord. And second paragraph, last few lines, Prabhupada writes, only the pure devotees can know by the mercy of the Lord that the personal association of the Lord is the highest perfection of life. The Lord assured Uddhava that he would fulfill his desire. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into association of the Lord. So by hearing from Krishna, Maitreya became devotee. Without mercy of the Lord, nothing happens. Athapi te deva padambuchadvaya prasadaleshanugrihita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno na chanya ekopi chiram vichinvan. Oh my Lord, unless one gets a drop of your mercy, they cannot know you. So to understand Lord, we need the mercy of the Lord. So by the mercy of the Lord, the pure devotee can know him. One cannot barge into the kingdom of God. Oh God, give me mercy now. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. We can just pray and beg and just wait. So after hearing from this, from the Lord, Maitreya also became devotee. 12th verse. स एष साधो चरमो भवानां मदनुग्रहो यत् यन्मानः उत्सृजन्तम् दृश्यान् विशदानुवृत्त्या
Honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life, you have been avoided by ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikuntha. By leaving this universe of conditioned living entities, you are visiting me in this lonely place because of your pure and unflinching devotional service is a great boon for me.
स एष साधो Charamo Bhavana. So this birth is your last birth. Asaditaste, by my mercy, Madanugraha, because you have received my mercy, by my mercy, this will be your last birth. Yanmam Nilokan. After leaving this planet, you will go to my abode, Vaikuntha. Mam Nilokan Utsrijantam. After leaving this body, you will go to my abode. Dishtya Dadrishman Vishadan Vritya. Your visit to me will be a great boon for you. It will give you, it is because of your unflinching devotion, because you have unflinching devotion. So you have attained this great boon. So that is what is described here by the Lord. So Lord is sitting in a lonely place, just about to disappear. And Uddhava, he was fortunate enough to see the Lord, and he received the Lord's permission to enter Vaikuntha. So Prabhupada writes about, again, Lord's appearance and disappearance. They are like the appearance and disappearance of the sun. And then Lord describes what he promised to give Uddhava, what you will get. So he says, somebody get the translation, 13th verse.
O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my never about my transcendental glory, which the great sages described as Srimad Bhagavatam.
So Lord is telling, I will describe Srimad Bhagavatam to you now. So that is the declaration which Lord is giving here. Continue. Next verse. Translation.
Uddhava said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears, and the hairs on my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this.
So now when the Lord spoke such beautifully and blessed Uddhava, Uddhava was overwhelmed, and he's saying, I could not speak. My words failed in tears. My body's hairs were standing on end. So somehow he gathered himself, smearing his eyes, smearing his tears. He folded his hands and starts speaking. Beautiful verse he speaks. Konvaishate pad saroj bhajam.
Konveishati pad saroja bhajam.
Swapiha.
Sudurlo varteshu chaturshika.
Pami bhuman.
Tathapi naham prapnomi
Bhagavatam
bhuman.
Sheva Notsukaha.
Bhagavad Abhishek Sukha. Hare Krishna. O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realm of the four principles of religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification and liberation. But, O Great One, as far as I am concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. Hare Krishna.
So in the beginning itself, Uddhava is declaring what I want. He is saying, I don't want any of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Only desire I have is service. Ko anva ishate pada saroj bhajam, O my Lord. Devotees who engage in service of your lotus feet, pada saroj bhajam, this service is so very rare. And anyone who engages in service of the Lord, sudurlabha, there is nothing which is difficult for him to achieve. Artheshu chaturshva dharma artha kama moksha. It is very easy for a devotee of the Lord to achieve. There is no difficulty. Whatever is in the realm of dharma artha kama moksha, devotee gets everything. But tathapi naham pravrinomi bhuman. Oh my Lord, I do not want any of that. I don't want dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Then what do you want? Bhavat panam bhoja nishevanotsukaha. Utsuka, I am anxious. What? For what? Nishevan, service. I only want service. Loving devotional service. So he's rejecting dharma, artha, kama, moksha and practicing and desiring only pure devotional service. वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्य फलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वम् इदं विदित्वा योगी परम स्थानम् उपैति चाद्यं कृष्ण says in Bhagavad Gita. My devotee gets everything. Whatever one achieves by Vedas, study of the Vedas, yajna, tapa, dana, punya, anything. My devotee gets everything. Krishna says in the 11th canto again, Yat karma bhir, yat tapasa, jnana, vairagya yaschayat, yogena, dana, dharmena, श्रेयो भिरितरैरपि. कुछ भी ले लीजिए वेदों में से, सर्वम मद भक्ति योगेना मद भक्तो लभते अंजसा. My devotee gets everything easily. स्वर्ग चाहिए मिलेगा स्वर्ग. अपवर्ग, that also will get. And madhama, okay, whatever you want you will get. Kathanchit yadi vanchati, इच्छा है, Krishna will give very easily. Krishna gives स्वर्ग and अपवर्ग very easily. भुक्ति और मुक्ति तो ऐसे ही मिल जाता है. मुक्ति करतले स्थितः, and Bilamangal Thakur says she is standing as a servant waiting. Devotee is not even looking at mukti. In Padyavali there is a discussion between Mukti Devi and a devotee, Mukti Mataji and a devotee. So devotee is doing his bhajan, chanting the names of the Lord, and Mukti Devi comes. So he understands, he opens his legs. Who are you? Katom. He Mukti Upagatasmi Bhavati. I have Mukti, I have come to serve you. Kasmad Akasmadiha. How come suddenly you have come? I didn't call you. She says, Tvam Krishnadeva Smaranena Bhavato Dasi Padam Prapita. Because you are serving Krishna, I have become your Dasi. So this devotee says, Dure Tisht Managanagasi. Oh, abominable one, stay away. ये बोलती है कथम को याद अनार्यम में. What wrong I have done? I have come to serve you and you are giving me गाली. ये क्या है? So he says, Twad Gandhan Nij Naam Chandan Rasale Pasya Lopo Bhavit. Just by your fragrance, my desire for serving the Lord will go away. So devotee is not interested in anything. Mukti nahi, bhukti nahi. But if you want, Krishna will give it. So therefore Uddhav says, I don't want anything of this world, O my Lord. Pure devotee Uddhava refuses to accept all the facilities of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. He simply wants to engage in bhakti. There is one verse in Bhagavatam which comes 3 times. Once it is spoken by Vritrasur, other time by Nagapatnis, other time by Uddhav. Na Nakaprishtham, na Chaparameshtyam, na Sarvabhaumam, na Rasadipatyam, na Yoga Siddhi, Apunarbhavam va, Samanjasatvam Virahaya Kamshe. I don't want anything of this world. कुछ नहीं चाहिए मेरे को. ना स्वर्ग, ना अपवर्ग, ना सिद्धि, ना lower planetary systems, nothing. I just want to serve you. Okay, then Uddhavji speaks another beautiful verse. From 16 to 18, now Uddhavji, he describes various contradictory activities of the Lord. So Uddhavji says, actually we are servants and we attain supreme bliss by seeing and remembering your name, form, qualities. But knowledge of these items is not sufficient because it is impossible to know the Lord completely. We are not able to understand how Lord is working in certain ways. Lord does bewildering things. And many pastimes of the Lord are contrary to logic. ये लॉजिक के बिल्कुल ऊपर है. ऐसा क्यों करते हैं ये? So therefore he is asking 2 verses how he gets bewildered. कर्माण्यनिहस्य भवो भवस्यते आयुताश्रमा
प्रमाददाश्रमा
तीर्विदामिह
सत्कारते कीर्तिर्विदामिह. My lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires, that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy householder life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself.
So all these are contradictory activities. How Lord is doing it? Why he is doing it? So he says, "Oh, I'm not able to understand. What to speak of me? Khidyati dhir vidam. Dhir vidam means the learned sages also get confused, disturbed. So we should have the knowledge of the Lord's power. At the same time, we should be absorbed in hearing and chanting. It is not that just absorbed, we will just chant and dance. We don't care about philosophy. That will create sahajya. One should be very much conversant with the philosophy of Bhagavatam and absorb oneself in the rasa of the Bhagavatam. If somebody is just reading the pastimes of the Lord without understanding the philosophy of the Lord, of the pastimes of the Lord, it will create sahajya mentality. We'll start taking these pastimes very cheaply. So, he has spoken the same thing in the second chapter also, in the same third chapter, 3 to 16. He has said, it is so very confusing. Mam khedayati. I am really bewildered. He's unborn, still he takes birth. How is it possible? And he goes to the house of Nanda Maharaj out of fear of Kamsa. So all this is confusing. Anywhere else, these contradictory pastimes are described by some devotee? It is confusing me. Just come in the first canto. Kunti Maharani is offering one prayer. I was in Vrindavan. I saw Yashodamai running after you and you are running in fear and you are crying. What is this? Gopyada de Tvaikrita Rasidama Tavat Yate Dashashrukalilāņana Sambhramaksham Vaktram Niniya Bhaya Bhavanaya Sitasya Samam Vimohayati Bhairapiyat Vibhetya. Fear personified fears you and you are running out of fear of simple lady. Kya chal rahi? So that's how a devotee is confused. Chakravarti Thakur writes, the actions of creation of the universe are not included since it is done directly by Maya. You are not directly involved. And there, your Swarup does not contact matter. When you are creating this universe, I'm not talking about that. Because in that, you are not personally involved. That is done through your Maya Shakti. So there is no contradiction there. But there are activities like lifting Govardhan. They are performed by your Swarupa. This is contradiction to your quality of non-action. You have nothing to do, still you are lifting Govardhan. I'm not talking about the creation of the universe because you are not directly there. You are delegating it to the material nature. But in Govardhan Leela and all the Braj Leela, you are directly there. You are doing so many things. How is this happening? So that is how it is. And then he says, by enjoying with Rukmini and others, you do not destroy the status of self-enjoying because they are expansions of yourself. That I know. Therefore, I have used the word ashram. That part is contradictory. So Lord is beyond ashram. Why he has to take shelter of grihastha ashram? I am not talking about enjoying with Rukmini and all those. Because they are all your Shakti, Chit Shakti. But why you have to take shelter of ashram, grihashram, Pramada Yutta ashrama. So how to solve all these contradictions? So whenever we hear these things, we should understand Lord does all these for one reason, to please the devotees. That's all. There is no other purpose. What was the purpose in lifting over them? He was giving pleasure to whom? All the Brajvasis. The gopis are thinking, अरे दिन में तो देखने को दर्शन नहीं मिलता है. And Gopals are thinking, अरे ये तो रात में मिलता ही नहीं है. So bringing everyone together. Bhavo bhavasya cha. Bhavo abhava. He's unborn. Still he takes birth. Why? Why he appeared? To give pleasure to Devaki and Vasudev. That's why he appeared. Bhayat palayanam. Why he ran away out of fear of Jarasandha? Why? किसको अभी यहाँ किसके प्रेम से आदान प्रदान? Who was waiting? Why Lord had to run and go to Dwarka? He had no time. Rukmini. Lord knew Rukmini ka prem patra is coming. So have to reach on time. And Pramadayuta Ashrama, he was surrounded by all these ladies just to reciprocate with their devotion. So that's how Krishna is all attractive, but he is attracted by who attracts Krishna? Shri Krishna Akarshini. What is that? NOD, 6 qualities, 6 characteristics. Bhakti attracts Krishna. That's probably NOD kidhar. So Sri Krishna Akarshini Chasa. Krishna, Bhakti attracts even Krishna. So that's how Krishna gets controlled by his devotees, and for them only Lord does all these contradictory activities. No other purpose. Darshayam stadvidam loka atmano bhrityavashyatam. Devotees, they control Krishna. Gopis, they say, oh Krishna, if you dance, I'll give you sweet. Krishna dances. Oh, you see, if you sing, I'll give you butter. Krishna is singing. So that's how it is. So Prabhupada writes, the pure devotees are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation. Nor is it possible to acquire complete knowledge about the Lord. You know, Ananda Shesh is singing the glories of the Lord since the beginning of the creation. Abhi tak end nahi hua hai. Gayan Gunan Dashashatanan Adi Deva. So what to speak of anyone else? Even if somebody can count the grains of sand on earth, snowflakes, rays of the sun, still they will not be able to count the glories of Krishna. Bhupam Sava, Khe Mihika, Dvibhasya. So who can understand the glories of Krishna? Whatever little knowledge devotees have, they are simply satisfied in chanting and hearing. So then Prabhupada, he, describes why Krishna did all these pastimes, why he takes birth, why he ran away. So Prabhupada describes all that in the purport also. So in the third paragraph, Prabhupada writes, solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. This cannot be understood by mundane speculators. For mundane speculators, there is certainly a kind of bewilderment, but the devotees, there is nothing astonishing. So devotees are not confused. As Bhishma, he says, oh Yudhishthira Maharaj, please don't get confused. Nobody can understand why the Lord is working in a certain way. Yudhishthira Maharaj says, सामने खड़े हैं पूछ लो. Ask, he will tell. He says, even if you ask, he will not tell. And even if he tells, you will not understand. नहीं अस्य करहिचित राजन पुमान वेद विदित्सिदम यद विजिज्ञासया युक्ता मुह्यन्ति कवयोपि. Even great yogis and poets and kavis, they also get confused. Nobody can understand. Okay. Now Prabhupada quotes this verse. Nahi asya karhichit rajan yad vijigyasaya muhyanti kavayo. And then he says another verse. What is more bewildering to me, Are he would ask me. He knows everything and he would ask, consult me. And whatever I would say, you take it seriously also. मतलब ऐसा पूछने के लिए पूछ लिया ऐसा नहीं. You would follow it also. Translation, somebody can read. 17th verse.
O my Lord, your eternal self is never divided by the influence of time, and there is no limitation to your perfect knowledge. Thus, you were sufficiently able to consult with yourself, yet you called upon me for consultation, as if bewildered, although you are never bewildered. And this act of yours bewilders me.
So that they मेरे से क्यों पूछ रहे हैं? Like if somebody great personality comes and asks you, इसमें क्या करना चाहिए? मेरे को क्यों पूछ रहे हैं आप? You know everything. So Prabhupada writes, Uddhava was actually never bewildered, but he says that all these contradictory actions appear to be bewildering. Prabhupada writes a very important line. The whole discussion between Krishna and Uddhav was meant for the benefit of Maitreya who was sitting nearby. So Lord is, amazing how he is using this facility to make Maitreya pure devotee. Because Uddhavji is already pure devotee. Unko kya hai? He is relishing the pastimes of Krishna, but there's somebody who is in greater need. He is a Gyan Mishra Bhakta, usko Shuddha Bhakta banana hai. That's why he is speaking all that. So then Prabhupada writes about the whole pastime. That when Uddhava, when this Jarasandh, he was about to kill all these kings who were imprisoned by him. So one of the kings sent a messenger that please save us. At the same time, Yudhishthir Maharaj sent an invitation that we want to do Rajasuya Yajna. Oh Krishna, please come and help us. So how to do these two activities? Krishna consulted Uddhav. And Uddhav said, oh, if you defeat Jarasandh, both these purposes will be solved. Yudhishthir Maharaj would be able to do Rajasuya, and all these kings would be saved. And Krishna took it very seriously. So that is bewildering. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that he would call me and ask, Uddhava, please tell me what should I do? He was aware of everything, but he was acting like a fool and asking like that a person, I don't know, please tell me. And he says he was not inattentive to the advice. We may tell, kya karna hai? And then we can start, we may start discussing with somebody else. Tu bolta rahe, and then, okay, theek hai. I know what I have to do. It is just like if somebody says, all of you meet and discuss and then I'll tell you what to do. So Krishna is not like that. You tell me and then mere ko jo karna hai, I've already decided. No, he would take it seriously also. So then, in 13th verse of this chapter, Krishna told to Uddhava that I have told this Bhagavatam to Brahmaji in the beginning of creation. So Uddhava is now requesting Krishna, please speak to me also, so that I may always remember you through that Bhagavatam. That's what he says in 18th verse. Jnanam param swatmaraha prakasham.
Jnanam param swatmaraha prakasham.
Bhagavan samagram. Api samno grahanaya bharata.
Api samamno grahanaya bharata.
Rijanam tarema.
Vedantasaya purijanam tarema.
My Lord, kindly explain to us if you think us competent to receive it. Transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment for yourself and which you explain before to the world.
So please, if you think us competent to receive it, that is how a devotee expresses. In the 11th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna also speaks the same thing. Manyase yadi tatshakyam maya drashtum iti prabho yogeshvara tato yetam darshayatmanam apyayam. If you think that I am qualified to see that form, please show me that form. You know, so that's how. One time in the beginning days, in the initial days, devotees, they were so excited. They thought, "Abhi pure devotee to thode din ki baat hai, bani jayenge." So one time Hayagriv Prabhu, he went to Prabhupada and said, "I am chanting 16 rounds since last 6 months. When will I see Krishna?" So Prabhupada showed him this 11th chapter Bhagavad Gita verse. Manyase yadi tachakyam. If, oh Krishna, if you think I am qualified, please show me. So we cannot demand, abhi ke abhi darshan dena hi padega, So we should desire to have a darshan of Krishna, but we should not demand, ki, I want darshan of you now, abhi mere samne. Service doesn't demand. A devotee never demands. So that's how he is telling, if you think I am competent, then please explain that knowledge. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, you spoke that knowledge to Brahmaji. So please speak to me if you are merciful to me. First, if you are merciful, then please speak to me. Second, if I am qualified to receive it, then please speak. First, if you are merciful, then please speak. Second, I am qualified, then please speak. And if it is possible to explain, then please explain it. If not, then do not speak. So that's what Chakravarti Thakur writes. And what will happen by this knowledge? I'll cross this ocean of Vrijinam Tarema. Vrijinam means miseries. By this knowledge of Bhagavatam, I will cross this ocean of material existence. So Uddhava, he, from 19 to 22nd verses, 4 verses, Krishna 3, 19, 24 verses, Uddhava decides to execute Lord's instructions, whatever Krishna told him. So he says, when I thus expressed my heartfelt desires, the Lord instructed me about his paramam sthitim. That is very important word. Recite this. Ityaveditahardaya Bhagavan paraha
Iyam sa Bhagavan paraha
Adidesharavindaksha
Adidesharavindaksha
Paramam sthitim.
Atmanam paramam sthitam.
When I thus express heartfelt desires unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about this transcendental situation.
So, iti avedita, thus being prayed by me, hardaya, from the core of my heart I prayed. It was not just a simple, superficial prayer. I was really praying, sincerely prayed. So then, Adidesha Daksha, the Lord who is Arvindaksha, he instructed me what? His own Paramam Sthiti, his own transcendental situation. What is that transcendental situation? That transcendental situation, Chakravarti Thakur writes, this was not revealed by Shukadev or by Uddhava to Vidurji. It was revealed by the Lord himself to Uddhava. Lord himself described that to Uddhava. And what is that Paramam Sthiti? The wonderful, dealings of the Lord with Brajavasis. Prabhupada writes, this transcendental situation comprises his dealings with the devotees engaged in transcendental service as exhibited at Dwarka and Vrindavan. It was meant only for Uddhava, and therefore Uddhava particularly said Mahyam. Although the great sage Maitreya was sitting there, such a transcendental situation is hardly understood by those whose devotion is mixed with jnana and karma. So nobody can understand this confidential knowledge if somebody is mixed with jnana and karma. So therefore, Lord, Uddhava said, please explain to me. I want to hear that most confidential knowledge. And Lord explained to me. So then after this, he says, I studied the path of understanding self-knowledge from my spiritual master, Supreme Lord, and after circumambulating him, I have come to this place. Very much aggrieved due to separation. So he didn't say what was described, what Lord told him, what was that Paramam Sthiti. He didn't tell about that. And that created an inquiry from Vidurji. You please tell me now what Lord told you. वो परमाम स्थिति क्या वो क्या बताया? So that's what Vidurji say. Uddhava says, Maitreya was there. And a beautiful description comes why he didn't tell. And very strong purport Prabhupada writes there. Prabhupada writes, somebody can read the purport of 20th verse, a few lines.
From starting.
Yeah.
See, Uddhava's actual life is the direct symbol of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, initiated first to Brahmaji by the personality of Godhead. These four very great and important verses from Srimad Bhagavatam are particularly taken out by the Mayavadi speculators who construe a different purpose to suit their impersonal view of monism. Here is the proper answer to such unauthorized speculators. The verses of Srimad Bhagavatam are purely theistic science, understandable by the postgraduate students of Bhagavad Gita. The unauthorized dry speculators are offenders at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna because they distort the purpose of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to mislead the public and prepare a direct path to the hell known as Samitsra. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 16.20, such Indian speculators are without knowledge and actually condemn life after life. They unnecessarily take shelter of Sripada Sankacharya, but he was not so drastic as to commit an offense at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna.
Okay. So Prabhupada, wherever he mentions about Shankaracharya, he gives him all the respect because he never ever, directly denied the existence of the Lord. But his followers have done it really royally. They have destroyed the existence of the Lord. And that's why Shankaracharya has done its purpose nicely. His purpose. That's why he had come to, just distract all these foolish people. So Prabhupada writes about their destination is hell. And another place also, Bhagavatam says that the Mayavadis, they'll go to hell for sure, no doubt about it. Here also Prabhupada is writing, he quotes this Bhagavad Gita, Tanaham Dishita Kruran Sansareshu Naradaman Shipami Ajasram Ashuran Ashurashveva Yonishu. So Prabhupada writes that Shankaracharya, he preached this Mayavad for a particular purpose. It was necessary that time. It was necessary to defeat the Buddhist philosophy. It was an emergency. But his followers took it and they started propagating it. So Shankaracharya personally never commented on Bhagavatam. He didn't offend, but his followers, they are doing it. Later followers, Prabhupada, later speculators in the name of Mayavad philosophy unnecessarily make their commentary on Chatushloki. So that's how it is. Okay, so Uddhavaji, he was very much aggrieved in the feelings of separation. So therefore, he heard Bhagavatam and he was pacified. And then he says, I have come now here. So Uddhav says, how will you live in separation? How will you live with that pain of separation? Vidurji may ask Uddhava, you have come here, you are separated from the Lord, how will you live? So Uddhav says, I have a service. That service is keeping me alive. That service is giving me strength to live. What is that service? I have to go to Himalayas and give association to the sages of Badrikashram. Soham tad darshanalada Gamishye daitam tasya
Gamishedayitam tasya
mandalam.
Vadaryanshramam.
My dear Mithra, now I am mad for want of the pleasure of seeing him. And just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badrikashrama in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him.
So absorption in the service of the Lord is a way to connect with the Lord. And it makes one free from all the material miseries. The more we are absorbed, all of us must have experienced some time when we are absorbed in service, we don't care about eating also, and sleep also. Because we are absorbed, we are beyond the material modes. So that is what Uddhavji is experiencing. So Prabhupada writes about the characteristics of a pure devotee. He is constantly in association with the Lord. He is not for a moment unengaged. And execution of the Lord's service is the main occupation of a devotee. And as long as one is engaged, there is no separation. So 3 points he says. Okay, so there, what will happen? Next verse translation. 22nd verse translation.
There is Badrikashram, the personality of Godhead. Therein, Badrikashram, the personality of Godhead, means incarnation, as they say, Nar Narayan, has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all, enable living.
So what is happening in Badrikashram? The sages Nar and Narayan, they are staying there and having their penance, doing their penance. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that actually these Nar and Narayan rishis, they wanted to hear the glories of Krishna. So that's why also Uddhavji, was sent. And Prabhupada writes about this Badrikashram and Nar and Narayan rishis and devotees, pilgrims, they go to this Badrikashram to take darshan of Nar and Narayan rishi. Okay, now Shukdev Goswami is speaking here. Shri Shuka Uvacha Dhavadupakarnya Vadham Shamayat Shatta Shokam Patitam Bhuttha.
Hare Krishna. Sri Shukdev Goswami said, after hearing from Uddhava all about the annihilation of his friends and relatives, the learned Vidura pacified the overwhelming bewilderment by dint of his transcendental knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Viti Uddhavad Upakarnya, after hearing from Uddhava, Suridam, Dussaham Vadham, the death, annihilation of his dear relatives and friends. How he pacified himself? Jnanena, by transcendental knowledge. Ashamayat, he pacified himself. Shatta, O Vidura, Vidurji pacified himself like that. Shokam Utpatitam, he pacified his bereavement. Anywhere else we have heard that somebody was in great distress and he remembered, he heard something and he was pacified. Arjuna, in the 15th chapter, first canto. So after remembering all these, activities done by Krishna, how Krishna helped him, he says, now I am pacifying my mind by remembering the instructions which Krishna gave to me on the battlefield. Deshakalartha yuktani rittapopashamani cha haranti prasabham chittam govinda abhitani me. So, bereavement is natural. When calamities come, it is natural to, be distressed. But when we take shelter of the transcendental knowledge, it becomes easy to tolerate those difficult situations. Okay, so it is 5:30 now, so we'll stop here. Prabhupada writes in this purport, all these hurled him into bereavement for time being. But because he was highly advanced in transcendental knowledge, he was quite competent to pacify himself by enlightenment. So that's how he pacified himself. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. Thank you much. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai. So I'll put on the group the question paper.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.